Welcome, Rune Weavers, to a special holiday production of Rune Weaving with Birch. It's the night of the solstice. We have a Yule fire burning beside us here, and we have the Yule tree behind me, decorated with red bulbs and silver bulbs to symbolize the changing of the seasons. The red, of course, for the berries on the mistletoe. The silver for the silvery snow that falls and blankets the world at this time of year. Now, I do believe I promised you all a special lesson talking about the Yule Father and Mother Berchta, and you're going to get it. So, first, let's talk about the Earth Mother in Germanic mythology. She has a lot of names. Depending on where you look, you can see her called Frau Berchta, Frau Perchta, Frau Halle, Frau Hulda. And in many cases, she actually is the one leading the wild hunt. It's not Odin, it's her. She has the, in some places, she, like Frau Perchta, she has the Perchti, who are sort of like small Krampuses. They run around causing mischief, and if they find a house that isn't quite up to spec, the weaving's undone, the house is a mess, they'll come in and they'll leave an even bigger mess. Frau Hulda is very much a goddess of witches. She is one of the goddesses who run in the wild hunt. A lot of the traditions will say it's carried with, pagans and unborn babies and things, but I don't really know if I could see an unborn or unbaptized baby galloping about on a horse in a wild hunt, but I guess, I can't fault Christians for saying what they say. When we talk about Walpurgisnacht in the summer, we'll be talking about a lot of them too. So what is it with the birch tree and this time of year? Because if you look at the Druidic calendar, the new year begins with the birch. That's the first tree in their tree calendar beginning in December. Obviously, you have all the birch, you see a lot of tinsel, you see a lot of birch decorations this time of year. Some people, I'm actually ordering one, is not here yet, will get a birch tree instead of an evergreen. So what is it about birches and this time of year, and Mother Birch in particular, that people find so compelling? Well, some of it is obviously the color. The birch tree is a white tree, and when you look at a birch tree in the winter, it like blends in and it stands out with the snow at the same time. It's like a white ghost just among all the browns and whites and grays. There's a beautiful birch tree just kind of glistening there. Birches have long been associated with the magic of the feminine. Birch besoms were used to sweep and keep the house clean. Oftentimes, a Yule log will be made of birch. Mine is not. I do not burn birches except in extremely specific ways. I burn oaks. But birches have long stood as a symbol of renewal, of new life. When a forest gets burned down or clear cut, the birch is often one of the very first trees to grow back. They are quick to turn yellow leaves. And I guess a lot of people look at birches and think they're such a feminine tree. So all that kind of goes along with and gets connected to the idea of the Germanic mother goddess, especially in southern Germany, where you see a lot of the worship of Frau Perchta and Frau Berchta originating from the birch tree and the and the goddess go very, very hand in hand from an early age. Um, it's hard to say exactly, but I personally believe and suspect that the birch tree was to the goddess what the oak tree was to Donner, or Thor, as he's called in the Norse tradition. Um, and many of the birches in my area here, when I pass by them, I always say a little prayer to the goddess as I do, because I really believe that she is within the birch and she's living within the birch tree. So, yeah, to kind of go back to the idea of Mother Berkta again, this is not quite Mother Berkta. She's a bear, but she's a birch bear. See the colors? Whites and darks patterned together. They're just so beautiful. I mean, so obviously you all know I'm Birch the Runeweaver. And I was, of course, named after the tree. And I do a lot of magic that involves the birch in a lot of different ways. And this is definitely our time of year. So when you work with Mother Berkta or any of the goddesses and you work with the birch branches, it's important to remember you're working with something very, very sacred, very ancient, and always approach the birch tree with that in mind. Approach the goddess with that love and respect, because she's the kind of goddess who will demand it. There is, I have here a very funny poem by S. Posh. Mother Berkta's coming to town. Oh, you better watch out when winter comes nigh. Don't you dare doubt, I'm telling you why. Mother Berkta's coming to town. She carries a sack made out of skin. She dumps the toys out, she stuffs the kids in. Mother Berkta's coming to town. She rides on Asher Skeggy, a goat whose back is strong. His beard is black and scraggy, and her tail is 10 feet long, with 6 or 8 horns, a mustache or two. She ain't no mistake, she's coming for you. Mother Berkta's coming to town. She knows with whom you're sleeping. She knows with whom you wake. She knows each thought you're thinking. So don't think, for goddess' sake. So when the winds howl way up in the sky, listen as she and Skeggy pass by. Mother Berkta's coming to town. And if you like the art, it's actually from Helga Hedgewalker. HelgaHedgewalker.com is her website. I really like it. It's pretty cool. So that's some Mother Berkta. And one other thing I just remembered. We talked in the one story I read about Mother Winter and her geese. Well, Mother Winter is just another name for the Germanic Earth goddess. And she does have a lot of geese. And those geese fly through the sky on a winter's night. Their feathers become the snow, and their voices the howl of the wind. So that there is our Mother Berkta. And now I want to talk to you a little bit about Father Yule himself. Father Yule, we often talk about, Odin, and obviously Odin is the main god of the Asgardians, of the Aesir, and in a lot of the Northern European wild hunt traditions, it's not Aron like we discussed with the Welsh, and it's not Frau Hulda, or like we just talked about with the Germanic goddess, but it's Odin himself who rides on the wild hunt. leading it on his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir. So picture at this time of year, it's the darkest, coldest, shortest days of the year. And there's this god who flies around with an 8-legged horse delivering gifts, and he knows when you are sleeping. He knows when you're awake. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. Of course, I don't know how much Odin is really into behaving yourself. Some of the stories about Odin make you kind of think twice about that one. But for sure, when you're working with Odin, you never quite know what you're going to get. Because sometimes he really lives up to his reputation as the god of ecstasy and wildness. There's something deeply powerful and untamed when working with Odinic magic. But as the Yule Father and as a god of the winter, he often rides out on what's called the Oskoraya, the terrifying ride, or Odin's yacht, Odin's hunt. And you might see them high up in the sky, Odin and Sleipnir, with deep snow and howling winds. And there are some Volva and Galder practitioners this time of year who will deliberately go into trance at night and send their souls out to join the wild hunt while their bodies lie safe and sound in bed. Odin is also very much a god of order, in the sense of the order that exists between people, compacts. He's a god of the kings. And one thing the kings often did to keep their followers loyal to them was they would offer gifts. You know, if you were good to the king, he'd be good to you in return. And so you'd serve the king well, and you'd come out of it with, a ring or an armband or some other valuable metal that, was really the most portable and useful form of wealth you could get. So Odin is very much through that connection with kingship and gift giving. Odin is very much a god of gift giving, oaths, and exchanges, which again kind of ties into that very long and complicated descent from Odin riding on Sleipnir, leading a wild hunt through the winter night, all the way to jolly old Santa Claus living up at the North Pole with 8 tiny reindeer and 1 reindeer with a red nose. But his story is a different story. And, I get why, they gussied him up and they called him Old St. Nicholas, and they Christianized him as they Christianized so many, because there's a power of it that can't really be ignored. And so here's another Helga Hedgewalker picture of the Yule Father. One of Odin's more than 100 name titles in Old Norse, including Odin, Aldafather, Allfather, Yule Father, the Yule Father, Yulnir, Yule figure, the Yule one, Fjolsvin, or Svidor, wise one. When we talk about the words of the High One, the Havamal, that's a lot of what we're getting into, is the words of Odin, the wise. Forni, ancient one. Ganglari, or Vafud, wanderer. Her Janor, her Fador, leader of the wild hunt, father of hosts. Grimnir, hooded one. Oski, god of wishes, god of things wished for, gift giver. Old Man Winter, Frost Father, Foldar Drulten, Lord of the Earth. So long before there was a Santa Claus traveling about on a sleigh full of presents, who lived far in the north with a bunch of elves, there was another old man who lived far in the north with a bunch of gods, who would also bring gifts and excitement wherever he went. So that's a quick look at the mother and father of the Yuletide. One of many, of course, is to look at different traditions, but the two that I tend to recognize the most at this time of year. It's always good to really see the history and meaning of this holiday, which so often gets celebrated as the epitome of Christianity. But like a lot of things within Christianity, it's older and deeper than even they know. Blessed